At some point, we're gonna have to stop asking this question. When are folks gonna stop playing with black magic and witchcraft? When are we gonna learn, folks? And here we go again in this new film, Dead and Beautiful. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. Today we're going to be reviewing the film Dead and Beautiful, which made its North American premiere this year at Fantastic Fest, and you can check it out exclusively on Shudder, streaming November 4th. Now, so this film, I really like the concept, and amongst that, the visuals were second to none. This was probably the most aesthetically pleasing film this festival. It had some of my favorite shots. That may be all bias aside. With all bias aside, I think it really was a beautifully shot film. The cinematography was amazing. And even with some of the special effects, I feel like, the practical shots was nice. There was obviously some noticeable CGI, but it really came together really well. But there was parts about this film I had problems with, which I'll talk about in a second. But ultimately, when it comes down to the plot, folks are gonna have to stop messing with witchcraft, black magic, and calling upon things. We gotta have to stop that, folks. But if they did, then we wouldn't have film to watch, right? So that brings us to this film, Dead and Beautiful. You got these 5 wealthy friends. They're Asian, they're in their mid-20s something, and life is good. They're privileged, they got all the money, they can do whatever they want. They got nice fashion, nice cars, they got it all made. They go out to the club, they do all that stuff. However, to keep things kind of fresh, they got their group called The Circle, in which everyone is designated at a time to plan an adventure, an excursion, a voyage, whatever it may be. That brings us to Lulu, who decides that she's going to take them on to this adventure, something she saw on Instagram, which when they actually got there, it was nothing like they thought it was going to be. Well, that's that. They wake up the next day, and everybody is pretty much acting like they had a hangover. But that's not what happened. They wake up and everybody has fangs, like their teeth. And people are just like, well, is this some type of joke? I don't remember what happened last night, etc., etc. There were some other things I'm not going to say that happened, but ultimately they woke up kind of like, what is happening right now? Beyond them having fangs, they realize quickly that they are vampires. So now they're trying to make do with their new life. Some accepting it, some not. Especially Lulu, who's the one that kind of is like the blame, but is she the blame? She doesn't even know what's going on. So like, that's the story here of them sort of trying to figure out how they got in a situation, what's next, and obviously because they're vampires, making do with their new situation, but also trying to kind of stay under the radar. It's pretty weird. It's a fast learning curve that they have to endure, but they'll figure it out. So yes, that's that. Now, I have to say that I truly struggled with the progressions of this film. Like when events started to occur, I feel like things were kind of just jumping forward much faster. The character developments and the plot development, I felt like was very fast. Like they did not really give a lot of time to kind of let the viewers connect to what's happening, because by no means did I ever feel a sense of urgency for anybody, like in a sense of worry for anybody. It's kind of like they went out one night, something happened, they woke up and they were just like, okay, cool, we'll deal with it. It's like, oh wait, no, you're a vampire now. You need blood, which means that you also going to have to get people to get blood. Someone's going to have to deal with the cravings. Some may not totally deal with the cravings the same way the other person is. So, what can you say? I did like how they kind of used that found footage style in parts of the film. That I thought that heightened things a little bit, because like, this is considered like a psychological film, a psychological thriller. So not much horror, but it did provide horror with that styling of cinematography of using the found footage. And it's like also too that this film was like slightly in the pandemic, slightly not. And I guess for a sense of it being in the pandemic, things were still very weird. It's kind of like halfway in, halfway out. I don't know. And for me, I just felt like the story didn't all come together good. Like, it wasn't a crisp, solid story here. And then there was like a love story intertwined with things, which I don't know how. And so when you start to talk about the purpose of the characters and whatnot, like they figured out that, you know, what happened to them had to do with the Orovi tradition, and that they were now going to become the new generation of wealth. So they kind of fully embraced this. And Lulu, on the other hand, who planned this whole thing, you know, it's interesting that she thought she was just doing something good, but she really had no idea how deep this was going to get. It went from just it being her turn, planning an adventure, to they going bad, to waking up, and then the full-blown deep dive of just trouble. And ultimately, she isn't really the one that's really exposing herself as a vampire, which is another interesting thing that they kind of like went upon, but I feel like it didn't execute good. But it is what it is. I wasn't really scared at all. I wasn't really like in a sense of like having to think a lot here, even though it's supposed to be a psychological thriller. I felt like nothing was thick enough to really invest me to be like, I wonder what's going on. Besides the idea that the plot was just kind of so rushed, I was just kind of like, hello, like, what's happening? Like, how did we get here so quick? So that's that. But again, the visuals, the neon city nightlight shots, amazing. The club shots, amazing. The use of colors, all of that, amazing. This film was shot beautifully. That's without a doubt. And then when it came down to the costumes, or, you know, the outfits, the attires and all that, really good. Really good. I was digging it the entire time. So, you know, that's that. I feel like this film definitely could have been a lot better in regards to the substance of the plot, and really taking time to let the viewers connect with things. Things felt extremely rushed as far as the character development, which ultimately, I feel like it ultimately it caused issues with the plot. So I don't know, but I will say this. I will watch this film again for the visuals alone. Maybe I'll pick up some things that I didn't pick up on the first time. But other than that, I feel like this film definitely could have been more solid on the plot. But you folks can check this film out, Dead and Beautiful, November 4th on Shudder. Jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts about this film. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon. Big gold bell,